Are there additional representatives-elect in the chamber who wish to record their presence? If not, all time has expired.
Oh,
431 representatives-elect have recorded their presence. A quorum is present. Credentials, regular in form, have been received showing the election of the Honorable Jennifer Gonzalez Colon as resident commissioner from the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico for a term of 4 years beginning January 3rd, 2017. The Honorable Eleanor Holmes Norton as delegate from the District of Columbia. The Honorable Michael F.Q. San Nicolas as delegate from Guam. The Honorable Stacy E. Plaskett as delegate from the Virgin Islands. The Honorable Ama Amada Coleman Radowagon as delegate from American Samoa. And the Honorable Gregorio Kili Camacho Sablan as delegate from the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Pursuant to law and precedent, the next order of business is election of the Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 116th Congress. Nominations are now in order. The clerk recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let me begin by welcoming all of the members and our families to the People's House in connection with the start of the 116th Congress. The scripture says that weeping may endure during the long night, but joy will come in the morning. Madam Clerk, it is with great joy that I rise today as directed by the House Democratic Caucus to place the name of Nancy Pelosi in nomination to be the next Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Without question, Nancy Pelosi has a track record of legislative success that is unparalleled in modern American history. Nancy Pelosi captained the ship that defeated the effort to privatize Social Security, rescued our economy in the midst of the Great Recession, saved the American automobile industry, provided affordable health care to more than 20 million Americans. Created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, enacted a minimum wage increase for the first time in 10 years, struck a blow against mass incarceration with passage of the Fair Sentencing Act, and provided relief to tens of millions of Americans who were credit card holders that were being defrauded. But Nancy Pelosi is just getting started. In the 116th Congress, she will continue to fight hard for the people. Nancy Pelosi will fight to lower health care costs, strengthen the Affordable Care Act, protect people with pre-existing conditions, increase pay for everyday Americans, enact the real infrastructure plan, clean up corruption, defend the dreamers, fix the Voting Rights Act, and end the era of voter suppression once and for all. Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi will fight for a country that provides for the poor, works for working families, makes sense for the middle class, stands up for senior citizens, innovates in the inner city, and strengthens suburban communities. Nancy Pelosi is a woman of faith, a loving wife, a mother of 5, a grandmother of 9, a sophisticated strategist, a legendary legislator, a voice for the voiceless, a defender of the disenfranchised, a powerful, profound, prophetic, principled public servant, and that's why we stand squarely behind her today. Let me be clear, House Democrats are down with NDP. Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi, the once and future Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, I proudly place her name in nomination. May God bless her. May God bless the United States of America.
The clerk now recognizes the gentlewoman from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would like to begin, I think, by thanking my colleague, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries, and welcoming all of the members and the families who are here with us today. Madam Clerk, we gather today in this magnificent place, in this body, a place where there is no other like it in the world, the United States House of Representatives, the People's House. This is the place where the great battles and debates about human liberty and freedom have been waged since the beginning of our republic. It was on these grounds, Madam Clerk, that Abraham Lincoln sought to heal this nation in his second inaugural address. It was here that we passed the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, guaranteeing equal protection under the law. It was here, Madam Clerk, in this chamber, 100 years ago this year, that we passed the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. I would point out, Madam Clerk, finally catching up with my home state of Wyoming, the first place in all the world where women had suffrage beginning in 1869. Now, Madam Clerk, we have not always gotten it right. One legislator famously said, quote, "We have the power to do any damn fool thing we want, and we seem to do it about every 10 minutes. Madam Clerk, that was a senator. And a Democrat. On this ground, Madam Clerk, we have inaugurated presidents and mourned them, declared wars and celebrated peace, debated all the issues facing this great republic down through the years. Today, as we take our oath of office, Democrat and Republican alike, we inherit that legacy and that duty to defend and protect our Constitution. Madam Clerk, it is my high honor today to have the great privilege to nominate the gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy, to lead us in that work as Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Leader McCarthy is the grandson of a cattle rancher. He is the son of a firefighter. He grew up in a working-class family. He started and ran his own small business, Kevin O's, in Bakersfield. He paid his way through college, and he learned firsthand that the government of the United States is more of a burden than a help to small businesses all across this country. No one has fought harder, Madam Clerk, for the rights and freedoms of American families, to ensure that they get to keep more of what they earn so that the American dream is accessible to all. No one No one has been a greater champion of ensuring our government is limited, exercising its constitutional obligations to defend our rights, and resisting the urge that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle constantly seek to fulfill of empowering federal bureaucrats to tell us how to live. Leader McCarthy will always look for ways to work with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle when we can, but he will never compromise on our fundamental rights and freedoms. Leader McCarthy knows our rights come from God. They are enshrined in our Constitution. He knows government is not the source of our liberty. Rather, it is instituted among men and women to secure our liberty. Leader McCarthy has led us through the 115th Congress in unmatched historic productivity, including passage of the historic Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, because we know, Madam Clerk, that the American people know better than the government how to spend their money. Leader McCarthy led us in passage of the Support Act, providing important resources to help address the devastating opioid crisis across this nation. He helped work to pass the VA Mission Act so that we could finally provide our veterans with the care that they deserve. Leader McCarthy led us in repealing historic numbers of Obama-era regulations that were strangling families, small businesses, and community banks all across our nation. He was the leader in the important fight to combat human trafficking. And Madam Clerk, Leader McCarthy led us in passing legislation to secure our borders, keep our nation safe, and the devastating practice of sanctuary cities, and yes, Madam Clerk, build the wall. Leader McCarthy also led to ensure that we passed the American Health Care Act to expand access and options and put patients and families in the driver's seat, not government bureaucrats. And finally, Leader McCarthy made sure that we passed on time and at a sufficient level, for the first time in a decade, appropriations to fund the United States Armed Forces to fulfill our most sacred and important constitutional duty. Madam Clerk, because he will lead us in fighting for all the people of this great nation from all walks of life, because he will stand against the fraud of socialism, which strips power from the people and gives it to the government, because he knows that the most important words of our founding document are the very first words, we the people. As chair of the House Republican Conference, I am honored and directed by the vote of that conference to present for election to the office of the Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 116th Congress the name of the Honorable Kevin McCarthy, a representative-elect from the state of California.
The names of the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, a representative-elect from the state of California, and the Honorable Kevin McCarthy, a representative-elect from the state of California, have been placed in nomination. Are there further nominations? There being no further nominations, the clerk appoints the following tellers. The gentlewoman from Ohio, Ms. Kaptur. The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Davis. The gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lofgren, and the gentlewoman from North Carolina, Ms. Fox. The tellers will come forward and take their seats at the desk in front of the Speaker's rostrum. The names of the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, a representative-elect from the state of California, and the Honorable Kevin McCarthy, a representative from the state of California, have been placed in nomination. The roll now will be called, and those responding to their names will indicate by surname the nominee of their choosing. The reading clerk will now call the roll.
Mr. Abraham, McCarthy, Adams, Pelosi, Ederholt, McCarthy, Aguilar, Pelosi, Allen, McCarthy, Allred, Pelosi, Amash, Massey, Amade, McCarthy, Armstrong, McCarthy, Arrington, McCarthy, Axney, Pelosi, Babin, McCarthy, Bacon, McCarthy, Baird, McCarthy, Balderson, McCarthy, Banks, McCarthy, Barr, McCarthy, Berrigan, Pelosi, Bass, Pelosi, Beatty,
proudly cast my vote for Nancy Pelosi.
Pelosi, Barra, Pelosi, Bergman, McCarthy, Beyer, Pelosi, Biggs, Jordan, Bilirakis, McCarthy, Bishop of Georgia, Pelosi, Bishop of Utah, McCarthy, Blumenauer, Pelosi, Blunt Rochester, Pelosi, Bonamici, Pelosi, Bost, McCarthy, Brendan F. Boyle, Pelosi, Brady, McCarthy, Brindisi, Biden, Brooks of Alabama, McCarthy, Brooks of Indiana, McCarthy, Brown of Maryland, Pelosi. Brownlee of California. Pelosi. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. McCarthy. Bouchon. McCarthy. Budd. McCarthy. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Bustos. Pelosi. Butterfield. Pelosi. Byrne. McCarthy. Calvert. McCarthy. Carbajal. Pelosi. Cardenas. Pelosi. Carson of Indiana. Pelosi. Carter of Georgia. McCarthy. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright. Pelosi. Case. Pelosi. Caston of Illinois. Pelosi. Castor of Florida. Pelosi. Castro of Texas. Pelosi. Shabbat. McCarthy. Cheney. McCarthy. Judy Chu. Pelosi. Cicilline. Pelosi. Cisneros. Pelosi. Clark of Massachusetts. Pelosi. Clark of New York.
To the great protector and guardian of immigrants' rights, the Italian-American, Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi.
Pelosi. Clay. Pelosi. Cleaver. Pelosi. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. McCarthy. Clyburn. Pelosi. Cohen. Pelosi. Cole. McCarthy. Collins of Georgia. McCarthy. Collins of New York. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Conaway. McCarthy. Connolly. Pelosi. Cook. McCarthy. Cooper. Present. Correa. Pelosi. Costa. Pelosi. Courtney. Pelosi. Cox of California. Pelosi. Craig. Pelosi. Crawford. McCarthy. Crenshaw, McCarthy, Christ, Pelosi, Crow, Duckworth, Cuellar, Pelosi, Cummings, Pelosi, Cunningham, Bustos, Good. Curtis, McCarthy, Davids of Kansas, Pelosi, Davidson of Ohio, McCarthy, Davis of California, Pelosi, Danny K. Davis, Pelosi, Rodney Davis, McCarthy, Dean, Pelosi, DeFazio, Pelosi, DeGette, Pelosi, DeLauro, Pelosi, Del Bene, Pelosi, Delgado, Pelosi, Demings, Pelosi, DeSaulnier, Pelosi, Desjardins, McCarthy, Deutsch, Pelosi, Diaz-Balart, McCarthy, Dingell, Pelosi, Doggett, Pelosi, Michael F. Doyle, Pelosi, Duffy, McCarthy, Duncan, McCarthy, Dunn, McCarthy, Emmer, McCarthy, Engel, Pelosi, Escobar, Pelosi, Eshoo, Pelosi, Espaillat, Pelosi, Estes, McCarthy, Evans, Pelosi, Ferguson, McCarthy, Finkenauer, Pelosi, Fitzpatrick, McCarthy, Fleischman, McCarthy, Fletcher, Pelosi, Flores, McCarthy, Fortenberry, McCarthy, Foster, Pelosi, Fox of North Carolina, McCarthy, Frankel, Pelosi, Fudge, Pelosi, Fulcher, McCarthy, Gabbard, Pelosi, Gates, McCarthy, Gallagher, McCarthy, Gallego, Pelosi, Garamendi, Pelosi, Garcia of Illinois, Pelosi, Garcia of Texas, Pelosi, Gianforte, McCarthy, Gibbs, McCarthy, Gomert, McCarthy, Golden, Bustos, Gomez, Pelosi, Gonzalez of Ohio, McCarthy, Gonzalez of Texas, Pelosi, Gooden, McCarthy, Gosar, Jordan, Gottheimer, Pelosi, Granger, McCarthy, Graves of Georgia, McCarthy, Graves of Louisiana, McCarthy, Graves of Missouri, McCarthy, Green of Tennessee, McCarthy, Green of Texas, Pelosi, Griffith, McCarthy, Grijalva, Pelosi, Grothman, McCarthy, Guest, McCarthy, Guthrie, McCarthy, Holland, Pelosi, Hagedorn, McCarthy, Harder of California, Pelosi, Harris, Harris, McCarthy, Hartzler, McCarthy, Hastings, Pelosi, Hayes, Pelosi, Heck, Pelosi, Kevin Hearn, McCarthy, Herrera Butler, McCarthy, Heiss of Georgia, Jordan, Higgins of Louisiana, McCarthy, Higgins of New York, Pelosi, Hill of Arkansas, McCarthy, Hill of California, Pelosi, Himes, Pelosi. Holding. McCarthy. Hollingsworth. McCarthy. Kendra S. Horn. Pelosi. Horsford. Pelosi. Houlihan. Pelosi. Hoyer. Pelosi. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Pelosi. Huizinga. McCarthy. Hunter. McCarthy. Hurd of Texas. McCarthy. Jackson Lee.
Because I have faith in our values and faith in her and what she stands for, Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi.
Pelosi. Jayapal. Pelosi. Jeffries. Pelosi. Johnson of Georgia. Pelosi. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Johnson of Texas. Pelosi. Jones. Jones. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Captor. Pelosi. Katko. McCarthy. Keating. Pelosi. Kelly of Illinois. Pelosi. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kennedy. Pelosi. Khanna. Pelosi. Kildee. Pelosi. Kilmer. Pelosi. Kim. Pelosi. Kind. John Lewis. King of Iowa. McCarthy. King of New York. McCarthy. Kinzinger. McCarthy. Kirkpatrick. Pelosi. Krishnamurthy. Pelosi. Custer of New Hampshire. Pelosi. Kustoff of Tennessee. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamb. Kennedy. Lamborn, McCarthy, Langevin, Pelosi, Larson of Washington, Pelosi, Larson of Connecticut, Pelosi, Latta, McCarthy, Lawrence,
Standing on the shoulders of the women who marched 100 years ago for me to have the right to vote, I cast my vote for Nancy Pelosi.
Pelosi, Lawson of Florida, Pelosi, Lee of California, Pelosi, Lee of Nevada, Pelosi, Lesko, McCarthy, Levin of California, Pelosi, Levin of Michigan, Pelosi, Lewis, Pelosi, Ted Lieu, Pelosi, Lipinski, Pelosi, Loebsack, Pelosi, Lofgren, Pelosi, Long, McCarthy, Loudermilk, McCarthy, Lowenthal, Pelosi, Lowy, Pelosi, Lucas, McCarthy, Lutkemeyer, McCarthy, Lujan, Pelosi, Luria, Pelosi, Lynch, Pelosi, Malinowski, Pelosi, Carolyn B. Maloney, Pelosi, Sean Maloney, Pelosi, Marchant, McCarthy, Marino, McCarthy, Marshall, McCarthy, Massey, Jordan, Mast, McCarthy, Matsui, Pelosi, McAdams, Murphy, McBath, Pelosi, McCarthy, McCarthy, McCall, McCarthy, McClintock, McCarthy, McCollum, Pelosi, McEachin,
Virginia's 4th Congressional District votes for our once and future Speaker, Nancy
Pelosi,
Pelosi.
McGovern, Pelosi, McHenry, McCarthy, McKinley, McCarthy, McMorris Rogers, McCarthy, McNerney, Pelosi, Meadows, McCarthy, Meeks, Pelosi, Meng, Pelosi, Muser, McCarthy, Miller, McCarthy, Mitchell, McCarthy, Molinar, McCarthy, Mooney of West Virginia, McCarthy, Moore, Pelosi, Morelli, Pelosi, Moulton, Pelosi, Mucarsel Powell, Pelosi, Mullen, McCarthy, Murphy, Pelosi, Nadler, Pelosi, Napolitano, Pelosi, Neal, Pelosi, Neguse, Pelosi, Newhouse, McCarthy, Norcross, Pelosi, Norman, McCarthy, Nunes, McCarthy, O'Halloran, Pelosi, Ocasio-Cortez, Pelosi, Olson, McCarthy, Omar, Pelosi, Palazzo, McCarthy, Pallone, Pelosi, Palmer, McCarthy, Panetta, Pelosi, Pappas, Pelosi, Pascrell, Pelosi, Payne, Pelosi, 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 Pence, McCarthy, Perlmutter, Pelosi, Perry, Jordan, Peters, Pelosi, Peterson, Pelosi, Phillips, Pelosi, Pingree, Pelosi, Pocan, Pelosi, Porter, Pelosi, Posey, McCarthy, Presley, Pelosi, Price of North Carolina, Pelosi, Quigley, Pelosi, Raskin, Pelosi, Ratcliffe, McCarthy, Reed, McCarthy. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rice of New York. Abrams. Rice of South Carolina. McCarthy. Richmond. Pelosi. Riggleman. McCarthy. Roby. McCarthy. David P. Rowe. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama. McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rooney of Florida. McCarthy. Rose of New York. Duckworth. John W. Rose. McCarthy. Ruda. Pelosi. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy. McCarthy. Roybal Allard. Pelosi. Ruiz. Pelosi. Rupesberger.
Born and raised in Baltimore, Nancy Alessandro
Pelosi.
Pelosi.
Rush. Pelosi. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Pelosi. Sanchez. Pelosi. Sarbanes. Pelosi. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Pelosi. Schakowsky. Pelosi. Schiff. Pelosi. Schneider. Pelosi. Schrader. Fudge. Schreier. Pelosi. Schweikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. Pelosi. Scott of Virginia. Pelosi. Sensenbrenner. McCarthy. Serrano. Pelosi. Sewell of Alabama. Pelosi. Shalala. Pelosi. Sherman. Pelosi. Sherrill. Bustos. Shimkus. McCarthy. Simpson. McCarthy. Series. Pelosi. Slotkin. Present. Smith of Missouri. McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Pelosi. Smucker. McCarthy. Soto. Pelosi. Spanberger. Bustos. Spano. McCarthy. Spear. Pelosi. Stanton. Pelosi. Stauber. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Style. McCarthy. Stubbe. McCarthy. Stevens. Pelosi. Stewart. McCarthy. Stivers. McCarthy. Swazi. Pelosi. Swalwell of California. Pelosi. Takano. Pelosi. Taylor. McCarthy. Thompson of California. Pelosi. Thompson of Mississippi. Pelosi. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Thornberry. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Tipton. McCarthy. Titus. Pelosi. Talib. Pelosi. Tonko. Pelosi. Torres of California. Pelosi. Torres Small of New Mexico. Pelosi. Trahan. Pelosi. Trone. Pelosi. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Pelosi. Upton. McCarthy. Van Drew. Mr. Van Drew votes no. Vargas. Pelosi. Vesey. Pelosi. Vela. Pelosi. Velasquez. Pelosi. Visklosky. Pelosi. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg. McCarthy. Walden. McCarthy. Walker. McCarthy. Walorski. McCarthy. Waltz. McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Pelosi. Waters. Pelosi. Watkins. McCarthy. Watson Coleman. Pelosi. Weber of Texas. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Welch. Pelosi. Wenstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Pelosi. Wild. Pelosi. Williams. McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Pelosi. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Woodall. McCarthy. Wright. McCarthy. Yarmouth. Pelosi. Yoho. McCarthy. Young. McCarthy. Zeldin. McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the representatives-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Jones. Mr. Van Drew is present.
If there are any representatives-elect who did not answer the call of the roll, they may come to the well and vote at this time. tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 430, of which the Honorable Nancy Pelosi of the state of California has received 220. The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 192. The Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 5. The Honorable Sherry Bustos of the state of Illinois has received 4. The Honorable Tammy Duckworth of the state of Illinois has received 2. The Honorable Stacey Abrams of the state of Georgia has received 1. The Honorable Joseph Biden of the state of Delaware has received 1. The Honorable Marcia Fudge of the state of Ohio has received 1. The Honorable Joseph P. Kennedy III of the state of Massachusetts has received 1. The Honorable John Lewis of the state of Georgia has received 1. The Honorable Thomas Massey of the state of Kentucky has received 1. The Honorable Stephanie Murphy of the state of Florida has received 1, with 3 recorded as present. Therefore, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi of the state of California, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 116th Congress. Which one? The clerk appoints the following committee to escort the Speaker-elect to the chair. The gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Hoyer. The gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy. The gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Clyburn. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise. The gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Lujan. The gentlewoman from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Walker. The gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark. The gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer. The gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Smith. And the members of the California delegation, Ms. Waters, Mr. Calvert, Ms. Eshoo, Ms. Roybal Allard, Ms. Lofgren, Mr. Sherman, Ms. Lee, Ms. Napolitano, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Davis, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Nunez, Ms. Sanchez, Mr. Costa, Ms. Matsui, Mr. McNerney, Ms. Spear, Mr. Hunter, Mr. McClintock, Ms. Chu, Mr. Garamendi, Ms. Bass, Mr. Barra, Ms. Brownlee, Mr. Cardenas, Mr. Cook, Mr. Huffman, Mr. Lamafa, Mr. Lowenthal, Mr. Peters, Mr. Ruiz, Mr. Swalwell, Mr. Chicano, Mr. Vargas, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Desaunier, Mr. Liu, Ms. Torres, Ms. Berrigan, Mr. Carbajal, Mr. Correa, Mr. Khanna, Mr. Panetta, Mr. Gomez, Mr. Sinceros, Mr. Cox, Mr. Harder, Ms. Hill, Mr. Levin, Ms. Porter, Mr. Ruda. The committee will retire from the chamber to escort the Speaker-elect to the chair.
Madam Clerk, the Speaker-elect, Nancy Pelosi of the State of California.
Members take their seats. Yeah. The House will be in order. Colleagues, friends, and fellow Americans, it is an honor to serve with you and to welcome you to the first day of the 116th of the United States House of Representatives. We are here in this chamber because of the faith of your neighbors and the support of your families. We are here today to represent the voice and the vote of 325 million Americans. Now, I would like everyone to pause. I want you to reflect on this fact. In the last 230 years, dating back to the founding of our republic, fewer than 11,000 Americans have had the privilege to stand here as a member of the House, just as you do. Chosen by their fellow citizens to represent them in Washington. What an amazing, invigorating, and yes, frustrating experiment that is. Representative democracy. The ink was barely dry on the Constitution when Ben Franklin wondered out loud whether this new nation was capable of keeping its government and its freedom that has been granted to us generation to generation. Centuries later, people still harbor similar concerns. They wonder if Congress truly represents them, if it's still capable of solving big problems. Well, there's no guarantees. It is up to us, all of us in this room, to make Congress work, to create and debate, just like our founding fathers did many years ago, with courage, with commitment and resolve. We are a very small group with a very large responsibility. The burden on us 435 members is to represent 325 million Americans faithfully, to work together so that tomorrow is better than today. As Ronald Reagan advised us, America's too great for small dreams. When we work together, we succeed together as one nation. We're now entering a period of divided government, but that is no excuse for gridlock or inaction. We are at our best when we focus not on retribution, but on building a more perfect union. But while we seek cooperation, there is one core principle upon which we will not compromise. Republicans will always choose personal freedom over government control. Now, this very floor we serve on has hosted some of the toughest debates in the nation's history, but it's also some of the most noblest achievements have happened here. This House has weathered times of triumph and crisis. It still stands because it is built not on sand, but on the solid rock of constitutional principles. Today marks a new chapter in this House pursuit of a more perfect union. The country knows Nancy Pelosi as an experienced leader with 3 decades of service in Congress, a fighter for her causes, and a true trailblazer. Even when we disagree with one another completely, it is important to remember that we are bounded together in a common cause, our love for America. As fellow citizens and friends, let us lead together to show the people that we are truly their voice and their vote. In that spirit, in the spirit of a more perfect union, and in the unshakable belief that America was, is, and always will be the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And in that spirit, I extend my hand of friendship to every member of this body. And to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, I extend to you this gavel. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Leader McCarthy. I look forward to working with you in a bipartisan way for the good of our country, respecting our constituents. You're every one of you. I respect you and the constituents who sent each and every one of us here. They expect and deserve for us to try to find our common ground. And we must try to do that. Stand our ground where we can't, but always extend the hand of friendship. Thank you, Kevin McCarthy, for your leadership. I look forward to working with you. Congratulations on being the leader of the party. And congratulations to each and every one of you. New members of Congress, newly re-elected members of Congress, thank you for your courage to run for office and to serve in this distinguished body. Every 2 years, we gather in this chamber for a sacred ritual under the dome of this temple of democracy, the Capitol of the United States. We renew the great American experiment. I'm particularly proud to be the woman Speaker of the House of this Congress, which marks the 100th year of women having the right to vote. and that we all have the ability and the privilege to serve with over 100 women members of Congress, the largest number in history. As Leader McCarthy said, each of us comes to this chamber strengthened by the trust of our constituents and the love of our families. Let us congratulate and welcome all of the families who are here today. Thank you to our families. Let me take the privilege of thanking my dear husband, Paul, and our 5 children. Our 5 children, Nancy, Corinne, Christine, Jacqueline, Paul, and Alexandra, and our 9 grandchildren, Madeline and Alexander, Liam, Sean, and Ryan, Thomas and Paul, Bella, and Octavio. We're so proud of all of our grandchildren, and we're proud of everyone's grandchildren and children who are here today. We'll see more of them. I'm also proud of my D'Alessandro family who was here from Baltimore for us, too. In that spirit, my mother and father and my brother Tommy, who was also mayor of Baltimore, taught us through their example that public service is a noble calling, that we should serve with our hearts full of love, and that America's heart is full of love. Singing that to us last night, my comrade as an Italian-American, with that pride, all that proud, I want to acknowledge Tony Bennett, who is here with us today as well. Thank you, Tony. He helped free the concentration camps during the time of World War II. He marched with Martin Luther King. He is a true American patriot. Thank you, Tony. And again, I want to thank my constituents from San Francisco who have entrusted me to represent them in Congress in the spirit of St. Francis, the patron saint of San Francisco. And his song of St. Francis is our anthem. Make me a channel of thy peace. We heard that in church this morning, but it is our mission. And let me thank our men and women in uniform, our veterans, and our military families and caregivers, whose service reminds us of our mission to make the future worthy of their sacrifice. To our men and women in uniform. We enter this new Congress with a sense of great hope and confidence for the future and deep humility and prayerfulness in the face of challenges ahead. Our nation is at an historic moment. 2 months ago, the American people spoke and demanded a new dawn. They called upon the beauty of our Constitution, our system of checks and balances that protects our democracy, remembering that the legislative branch is Article 1, the first branch of government, co-equal to the presidency and to the judiciary. They want a Congress that delivers results for the people, opening up opportunity and lifting up their lives. We're hearing the voice of the future there. How beautiful. When our new members take the oath, our Congress will be refreshed and our democracy will be strengthened by their optimism, idealism, and patriotism of this transformative freshman class. Congratulations to all of you in the freshman class. Working together, we will redeem the promise of the American dream for every family, advancing progress for every community. We must be pioneers of the future. This Congress must accelerate a future that advances America's preeminence in the world and opens up opportunities for all. Building an economy that gives all Americans the tools they need to succeed in the 21st century. Public education, workforce development, good-paying jobs, and secure pensions. We have heard from too many families who wonder in this time of innovation and globalization if they have a place in the economy of the future. We must remove all doubt that they do and say to them individually, we will have an economy that works for you. Let us declare that we will call upon bold thinking to address the disparity of income in America, which is at the root of the crisis of confidence felt by so many Americans. As Justice Brandeis said, we may have democracy or we may have wealth concentrated in the hands of the few, but we cannot have both. We must end that injustice and restore the public's faith in a better future for themselves and their children. We must be champions of the middle class and all those who aspire to it, because the middle class is the backbone of our democracy. It has been since the birth. It has been since the birth of our democracy. Aristotle said, "It is manifest that the best political community is formed by citizens of the middle class, in which the middle class is large and stronger than any of the other classes. We must fight for the middle class that is fair and fiscally sound, protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security." We must also face the existential threat of our time, the climate crisis, a crisis manifested in natural disasters of epic proportions. The American people understand the urgency. The people are ahead of the Congress. The Congress must join them. And that is why we have created a select committee on climate crisis. The entire Congress must work to put an end to the inaction and denial of science that threaten the planet and the future. This is a decision. It's a public health decision about clean air, clean water for our children's health. It's a decision for America's global preeminence in the green technologies. It is a decision, a security decision to keep us all safe, and a moral decision to be good stewards of God's creation. We have no illusions that our work will be easy and that all of us in this chamber will always agree. But let each of us pledge that when we disagree, we respect each other and we respect the truth. We will debate and advance good ideas no matter where they come from. And in that spirit, Democrats will be offering the Senate Republican appropriations legislation to reopen government later today. We will do so to meet the needs of the American people, to protect our borders, and to respect our workers. And I pledge that this Congress will be transparent, bipartisan, and unifying, that we will seek to reach across the aisle in this chamber and across divisions across our nation. In the past 2 years, the American people have spoken. Tens of thousands of public events were held. Hundreds of thousands of people turned out. Millions of calls were made. Countless families, even sick little children. Our little lobbyists bravely came forward to tell their stories, and they made a big difference. Now the floor of this House must be America's town hall, where people will see our debates and where their voices will be heard and affect our decisions. Transparency will be the order of the day. And as Mr. Jeffries, our distinguished chairman, said, we will follow our mandate for the people. And I thank you for your kind nomination and accept those kind remarks on behalf of the entire House Democratic Caucus who made all of those victories possible, some of them in a bipartisan way. Empower our mandate for the people to lower health care costs and prescription drug prices and protect people with pre-existing medical conditions. To increase paychecks by rebuilding America with green and modern infrastructure from sea to shining sea. We look forward to working with the President on that. To pass H.R. 1 to restore integrity to government so that people can have confidence that in a government that works for the people, not the special interest. H.R. 1. This House will take overdue legislation that has bipartisan support in the Congress and across the country. We will make our community safer and keep our sacred promise to the victims and survivors and families of gun violence by passing common sense, bipartisan background check legislation. We will make America fairer by passing the Equality Act to end discrimination against the LGBTQ community. And we will make America more American by protecting our patriotic, courageous dreamers. All three of those legislative initiatives have bipartisan support in this body. And when we're talking about the dreamers, let us remember what President Reagan said in his last speech as President of the United States. I urge you all to read it. It's a beautiful speech. He said, "If we ever close the door to new Americans, our leadership role in the world will soon be lost." Ronald Reagan. Our common cause, you know, applaud for Ronald Reagan. Our common cause is to find and forge a way forward for our country. Let us stand for the people to promote liberty and justice for all as we pledge every day. And always, always keep our nation safe from threats old and new, from terrorism and cyber warfare, overseas and here at home, to protect and defend. That is the oath we all take to serve in this body. That is the oath we take, to protect and defend. I close by remembering a cherished former member of this body who rose to become a beloved President of the United States and who last month returned to the Capitol once more, and he came this time to lie in state. That week, we honored President George Herbert Walker Bush with eulogies, tributes, and tears. Today, I single out one of his great achievements, working with both Democrats and Republicans to write the Americans with Disabilities Act into the laws of our land. Thank you, Steny Hoyer, for being such a big and important part of that. In 2010, we marked the 20th anniversary of the Act by making it possible for our colleagues with disabilities to preside over the House, by changing the mechanics of this podium. In that spirit of equality and justice, let me announce that this afternoon, the first Speaker pro tempore, whom I will yield to, of the 116th Congress will be Congressman Jim Langevin of Rhode Island. As we take the oath of office today, we accept responsibility as daunting and demanding as any that previous generations of leadership have faced. Guided by the vision and values of our founders, the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, and the aspirations that we have for our children, let us meet that responsibility with wisdom, with courage, and with grace. Together, we will let it be known that this House will truly be the people's house. And let us pray that God may bless our work and crown our good with brotherhood and sisterhood from sea to shining sea. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. I think I skipped a couple pages. I'm not sure. The parliamentarian instructs me to say the following. I am now ready to take the oath of office. I ask the Dean of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Don Young, to administer the oath of office to Speaker. But before you do, Mr. Dean, and I thank you for your great leadership in the Congress over the decades, I'd like to call my grandchildren up to be here when I take the oath, and any other children who want to join them. Come on, kids.
All children.
Cedric. Stand up tall. Everybody be quiet. If the gentlewoman from California would please raise her right hand, which you're doing, do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you're about to enter, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations, Madam Speaker.
Let us thank Dean Young. Thank you, Dean Young, Dean of the House of Representatives. I now call the House to order on behalf of all of America's children. Go kids! Go kids! Administer the oath of office for the members-elect en masse. If the children want to be back with their... No. Or if they want to be on TV, it's up to them. Stay or join their parents and grandparents as theirs. And Katie Hill, whose birthday it is today, wants her children to join her. Katie Porter, whose birthday it is, wants her children to join. For the children. Okay. The members-elect will all rise. Where's the oath? Okay, here it is. Will you all please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter, so help you God. Congratulations, you are now... House will be in order. Congratulations, you are now all members of the 116th Congress. Thank you. recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries. The House will be in order.
Madam Speaker, as Chairman of the Democratic Caucus, I have been directed to report to the House that the Democratic members have selected as Majority Leader the distinguished gentleman from Maryland, the Honorable Steny Hoyer.
The chair recognizes the distinguished gentlewoman from Wyoming, Congresswoman Chair Cheney.
Madam Speaker, as Chairman of the Republican Conference, I have been directed to report to the House that the Republican members have selected as our leader the gentleman from California, the Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries.
Madam Speaker, as Chairman of the Democratic Caucus, I have been directed to report to the House that the Democratic members have selected as Majority Whip the distinguished gentleman from South Carolina, the Honorable James C. Clyburn. That we have also selected as our Assistant Speaker the distinguished gentleman from New Mexico, the Honorable Ben Ray Lujan.
The chair recognizes the distinguished gentlewoman from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney.
Madam Speaker, as Chairman of the House Republican Conference, I've been directed to report to the House that the Republican members have selected as Minority Whip the gentleman from Louisiana, the Honorable Steve Scalise.
Does the gentleman seek to offer a resolution?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I offer a privileged resolution electing officers of the House of Representatives.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 1, resolved that Karen L. Haas of the State of Maryland be and is hereby chosen Clerk of the House of Representatives, that Paul D. Irving of the State of Florida be and is hereby chosen Sergeant at Arms of the House of Representatives, that Philip George Kiko of the State of Ohio be and is hereby chosen Chief Administrative Officer of the House of Representatives, and that Father Patrick J. Conroy of the State of Oregon be and is hereby chosen Chaplain of the House of Representatives.
The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I offer a privileged resolution and ask for its immediate consideration.
Does the gentleman seek to offer an amendment? And does the gentleman wish to yield to the gentlelady from Wyoming for a division of the question?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I yield to the distinguished gentlewoman from Wyoming for the purpose of offering an amendment.
Madam Speaker, I have an amendment to the resolution, but before offering the amendment, I request that there be a division of the question on the resolution so that we may have a separate vote on the chaplain.
The question will be divided. The question is on agreeing to that portion of the resolution providing for the election of the chaplain. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. Portion of that resolution is agreed to without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Gentleman from Wyoming.
Madam Speaker, I offer an amendment to the resolution offered by the gentleman from New York.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment offered by Ms. Cheney, that Barrett Carr of the state of Texas be and is hereby chosen clerk of the House of Representatives, that James Min of the state of California be and is hereby chosen sergeant of arms of the House of Representatives, and that Bill Hughes of the state of South Dakota be and is hereby chosen chief administrative officer of the House of Representatives.
Question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from Wyoming. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those no.
No.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. The question is on the remainder of the resolution offered by the gentleman from New York. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The chair now will swear in the officers of the House. Do you have the name? The chair will now swear in the officers of the House: Karen Haas, Paul Irving, George Kiko, Father Conroy. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely and without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which you are about to enter, so help you God? So, congratulations. From what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the House stand in recess subject to the call of the chair.
Without objection, the House will stand in recess subject to the call of the chair.
Audio live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service.
He's the best.
Okay, lean in this way, boy in the back. Here we go, 1, 2.
Okay, right this way, everybody. Thank you. Boys, Isaac, Josh, Jacob, and Joan. Right, this way.
King. Long may,
right on this side.